Welcome to Gaming Insight for Friday, November 7th, 2025. I'm Steve Saylor. This is your gaming show, gaming accessibility news show, or just updates about my life. I have coffee in my Last of Us mug today. And also, hi, I'm Steve Saylor. And today's story is kind of a big one. This is, if you have been living under a rock the past 24 hours, I would not blame you. I would not be necessarily on social media or just connected to online at this point in our current history. However, if you have been, God bless you. So this might be news to you or it might not be, but I want to kind of give my perspective on it. Yes, GTA 6 has been delayed again. You heard me correctly. Yes, unfortunately, GTA 6 has been delayed from its May release date to November of 2026. So I'm going to bring up the article so I can be able to show you. Just basically got to choose the right window here. Here we go. Perfect. All right. Grand Theft Auto 6 has been delayed again to the end of 2026. This is by Chris Scullion over at VGC. Hi, everyone. Rockstar said in a statement on Twitter, Grand Theft Auto 6 will now release on Thursday, November 19th, 2026. We are sorry for adding additional time to what we realize has been a long wait, but these extra months will allow us to finish the game with the level of polish you have come to expect and deserve. We want to thank you again for your patience and support. While the wait is a little longer, we are incredibly excited for players to experience the sprawling state of Leonida and return... Leonida, I think it's supposed to be sort of Florida, and return to modern-day Vice City. In a statement accompanying its latest financial results, Take-Two chairman and CEO Strauss Zelnick added Rockstar Games will now release Grand Theft Auto 6 on November 19th, 2026, and we remain both excited and confident that we will deliver an unrivaled blockbuster entertainment experience. With the most robust pipeline in our company's history, we expect to achieve record levels of net bookings in fiscal 2027, which will establish a new baseline for our business and set on us a path of enhanced profitability. They see a bunch of business jargon speak for, we hope that we're going to be able to hit our fiscal goals in 2027, which we think we will. This is the second major delay for one of the most eagerly anticipated releases in entertainment. The game was previously supposed to release in fall 2025, but earlier this year, Rockstar posted a statement announcing the game had been moved back to May 26, 2026. The latest delay essentially pushes the game back a full year further than its initially proposed release window. In an interview with The Game Business, that's Jeff Keighley's own sort of news site, Zelnick said that the company believed in the May 26 date, but it had to be pushed back to ensure it meets the standards it expects of the product. When we set a date, we really do believe in it, he explained. We said when we set the last date, if a game requires more polish to be the best possible version of itself, then we will give that game more time, and that's exactly what happened. We feel really good about this release date. It's in the same fiscal year. It happens to be a great release window, and naturally, we're really supportive of Rockstar's approach. During a Q&A and an investor call following the announcement, Zelnick was asked what drove the decision to delay the game for a second time. The drivers were a desire to deliver as perfect an entertainment experience as we possibly can, and to try to live up to consumers' extraordinary expectations and then exceed those expectations, he replied. It's always painful when we move a date. We have done so occasionally in the past, and we've never regretted it in retrospect. I like to point out that we have some competitors where more polish was required and required slipping a date. They chose not to. Hold on, let me read this again. We have done so. I would like to point out that we have some competitors where more polish was required and required slipping a date. They chose not to slip the date, and they did so at their own peril or at their peril. On the first delay from fall 2025 to May 2026, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that nobody he had spoken to at Rockstar believed fall 2025 was a real window due to too much work and not enough time, and what appears to be a real desire for management to avoid brutal crunch. I normally don't read the entire article, but all of that is relevant to this delay. Okay, so I have some thoughts. And first up, let's talk about the accessibility or the potential accessibility. Could this mean a good thing for accessibility or a bad thing for accessibility? And I would say yes and no. This could potentially be a good. Sorry, I had to take a drink of coffee there. Could this be a good thing for accessibility? Potentially. potentially this could be good for accessibility, but it can mean nothing, but it could also mean everything. Let me explain. So it could mean nothing in the fact that basically we're like you could be making the game, and because this game has been in development for so long, that the polish that's needed is probably cutting features that have been in the works or just not working, and sometimes accessibility can be a part of that. Not to say that that's the case in terms of Grand Theft Auto 6, but it could potentially be a possibility, right? And also, like, there could have not really been a lot of accessibility work that was happening, and really all this is just to be able to polish what was left over or what is left to do. Rockstar is known to do this. They have delayed games in the past, and for what it's worth, every game that they've released basically since GTA 5, which is basically just Red Dead Redemption 2, it worked. Let's say this: it worked for Red Dead Redemption 2 by delaying it, because it obviously is a very polished game. It won several Game of the Year awards that year, so it definitely, and it's still to this day one of the best looking games that's out there. There's no doubt about it. And I think that Grand Theft Auto 6 could potentially be that for another decade, essentially. Because you got to think, Red Dead 2 came out in 2018, I think it was 2017, 2018. I think it's 2018. That so right now, that's been about, essentially by the time GTA 6 comes out, it would be 8 years since that game came out, and it would still look good even then. Now, when I mean the basic, so that's potentially, like, accessibility could mean nothing. It could mean everything for accessibility, because it could mean that there's now more time to deliver on some of the potential accessibility offerings that they may want to be able to do. Essentially, whenever you're working on accessibility, there are some features that essentially could take a lot of time. There are, like, say, for instance, like a screen reader. This is not necessarily the mean that GTA 6 is going to have a screen reader. I'm just using this as an example. Sometimes when you're working on when you have a screen reader, you have to kind of create a bespoke version of a screen reader to work within the potentially bespoke engine that you're creating. And more than likely, GTA 6 is working on its own engine. And by doing so, you have to, like, when you're developing that engine, you're also developing the back end of what that engine is capable of. And when you're having to be able to, unless it's developed with it in mind, you have to try to be able to hack the engine to get a screen reader to work. Because there are two different types of engines, right? This will be a whole lecture on screen reader technology, but there are two ways to go about it, whether it's built into the engine or it's server based. Now, you got to remember, if it's server based, then every ping that server gets easily is an additional cost. It's pennies on the dollar, but over time, it gets added up of whenever the game is pinging to be able to get screen reader tech to be able to come in, to be able to read or to be able to activate within the game. That means that over time, that cost is going to be rampant. And also, it would mean that the game has to be online. It would never be able to be played offline. And a lot of people don't really like that. GTA 6 is probably going to be an online game because of GTA 6 Online. That'll probably happen, whether it's going to be for launch or a few months after. Who knows at this point? A lot of people speculating it's going to be after. But essentially, it could take them a while to be able to potentially to get that to work. So with this, I don't know, I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, so those are two types of sort of screen reader technology. So the best and most economical way is to try to be able to hack the engine to be able to make it work. Now, there are sometimes some APIs you can be able to tap into, but it's not always the best or easiest solution. So oftentimes, developers will just be like, okay, let's just try to develop it in-house. But that takes time, because now you're having to create a brand new feature that has to be robust and has to be dynamic and has to work within the game itself, and it's not going to cause any bugs. Like, you could basically, here's the thing, you could implement a new feature, but you have to spend months basically trying to be able to fix all the bugs that it would cause within the engine itself. So, I mean, and here's the thing. Oh, well, The Last of Us did it. Well, The Last of Us didn't really do it. What they did was they had audio files that for every text that was on screen, they basically had an audio file recording of a screen reader type voice so it could be read. Now, for The Last of Us, it worked because it's a single player game. But because this is potentially going to be a very dynamic game, it's an open world game, there's going to be a lot of text. And also, it could potentially, with it being online as well. Now, Rockstar could say, well, unfortunately, Screen Reader will only work in the single player campaign and not in online or multiplayer. That's a possibility. But if they wanted to be able to work online, then it would basically mean that they couldn't be able to do the audio files, because it just would mean every time a text change happens, they have to re-record that file. And it also costs a lot of memory to be able to bring up that file every time. I mean, case in point, God of War Ragnarok. They have a screen reader similar to what they did in The Last of Us, but because there was not enough memory in the in-game menu, they couldn't get the screen reader to work within the in-game menu. That's why if you have the screen reader turned on and you hit the in-game menu button, it'll say screen reader support is not available in this section. And it works everywhere else, but not in that in-game menu. So this, going back to the GTA 6, this potentially could give them enough time to be able to implement features like this, like a screen reader. I use screen reader as an example because it's the most robust and the most it could take up the most amount of time. It's like basically when people use German as an example of localization, because German has the most amount of characters per word than any other language, and so having to be able to test a UI based off of German, that's something that you have to kind of fix. A lot of, like, when you're basically producing a game that's in multiple languages. So same thing basically with screen reader. If you want to be able to implement it, you have to be able to, there's a lot of features and a lot of sort of development time, resource, and potentially money to be able to get something like this to work. So again, going back to what I was saying, this could mean nothing for accessibility, or it could mean everything for accessibility. Whether or not either or is going to happen, we don't know. Rockstar is super secretive about its efforts, about its development, and they haven't even really talked about anything accessibility related for their games. Who knows? Like, at this point, all of what I just said could be everything, could be nothing. So, and now let's talk about kind of the industry overall, right? So you have the GTA 6 basically a delay. Now that it moves to November. Everyone was always trying to avoid the GTA 6 release date as far as game releases, because they know that they're not going to be able to that they're not going to be able to compete when GTA 6 comes out, because no one's going to be playing their game. Everyone's going to be playing GTA 6. And that's why everyone was afraid to be able to announce release dates for their games for this fall, because they don't know whether GTA 6 was going to be available in the fall. They said they would, but they had to delay it till May. Then you started seeing the release dates coming out for all the different games that they wanted. But also, that's a huge pivot for a studio too, to be able to have to be like, okay, now that they're out, let's pivot to basically a brand new date. That could that's a lot. That's a many wheels and many plates you have to spin to try to be able to get that to work. So now that it's been moved from May to November, what does that mean for games that could potentially be released in the fall or the holidays of 2026? The only one we kind of know that's sort of large enough to potentially compete with that is Marvel's Wolverine. We have a date of fall of 2026. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will be November that the game would be released, but it does potentially mean that this game could be coming out in October, and it should be perfectly fine. But we don't know. Things could be delayed again, and they may Insomniac may have to delay and push it to November, and that might not be that may be the only game that could potentially survive a GTA 6 released window, but other games may not, and that could have an impact on sales. So it would mean that the industry is going to have to now scramble again to try to be able to figure out what release dates they could be able to hit that is not going to impact them fiscally because of a GTA 6. Because we all know GTA 6 is going to be the biggest entertainment release ever. We're talking bigger than Marvel than Avengers Endgame. We're talking bigger than any movie or TV show launch in history. This GTA 6 is the most anticipated entertainment property of a generation, and we are going to hopefully see it by the end of next year. And so that could basically bring a lot of turmoil to a lot of developers. Could they be able to now, if they had potentially a fall 2026 release window, could they potentially move into the May 2026 slot? That's a big if, because that's at least about 5 months. Let's see, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. So 7 months. That's a 7-month gap that a studio could use for development time that they may have to cut if they want to release a May 2026 window. And that's a lot to be able to cut if they've already committed to that timeline. And then now the developers have to crunch, because May is not that far away. We're already in November, and it's basically 6 months away at this point, 6 to 7 months away. So you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So that, like, yeah, maybe some games could potentially be done or be ready by that they could pivot to a May release. We don't know. But a lot of people were sort of expecting GTA 6 to be in that May window. So I would guess that a lot of studio heads are probably calling Rockstar being like, when are you releasing? Just let us know so we can avoid you. Anyway, I think that this could have this delay, I think from the game standpoint, I think it's going to be good, because I think polish is always good. It sucks that essentially that they say that they were confident in the May release date, and they were confident in the the fall 2025 release date, and they just keep pushing the goalposts, which could mean that they just keep announcing dates. It's either the executives are announcing dates and the developers are trying to tell them, no, it's not ready, and they just crunch to try to get that date. And then when they realize, and when the developers or when the publishers or the executive suites are like, oh yeah, this ain't ready, then they delay it again. And it really doesn't help with the developers who are working on this day in and day out. This, like, yes, it means gives them more polish, but it more than likely is just going to add more crunch time to the game to try to be able to get it done and ready to hopefully be able to launch by November. So we shall see. It would basically be a full year if they do release it in November 2026. It'd be a full year since their initial release window. And I don't think this is going to be like a Cyberpunk 2077 situation at launch. I don't think that's the case. I think Rockstar is very good at being able to make a game that is extremely polished. Yeah, a few bugs here and there, but I mean, it's extremely, they make a lot of extremely well-made games. And if they need more time, they need more time. I just hope it's not at the sake of developers basically having to experience so much crunch that they just can't be able to keep up. So anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. I would love to really hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you excited for GTA 6? Are you sad that it's delayed? Are you curious about the accessibility of the game? Or do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's not going to happen? Let me know in the comment section down below. Thanks so much. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.